This is WEBurlesque.
Hi, this is Viktor Devonne, and you're listening to WEBurlesque the podcast. Welcome to Season 5. It has been my honor and my privilege to speak with such fabulous entertainers over the years, and to have the opportunity to speak with even more and provide you with their stories and our conversations for the next, couple months. We'll see how 2021 shakes out. As always, we encourage you to go to patreon.com/WeBurlesque to help fund this show. As an added bonus, you will have access to our monthly WeBurlesque Home Edition shows. So if you support patreon.com at even the dollar level, you will get that exclusive Zoom link that gets you that burlesque broadcast of the month. I would like to take the opportunity to give a special thank you to Joyce, Andrea, Alex, Dollbody, Bo, Princess Chris, Ruthless Retribution, Kelly Blue, Stormageddon, and Rob Starabin for their support on Patreon at the $5 or above level, which gets you a special shout out on air. I would also like to dedicate this season to the memory of Black Orchid, who is no longer with us. I had a conversation with her for episode 101, and she has since passed tragically this past fall, and our love and sympathy goes out to her family and to her friends in the greater San Antonio area and Singapore. For more information on all previous episodes, please go to WeBurlesquePodcast.com. Enjoy the show.
Hi, this is TC Roosevelt. Hi, this is Daisy Bitch.
Hey everyone, this is Ginger Twist.
Hi everyone, this is Petra Fried.
This is Mina Minu.
Hello, this is Nasty Canasta. Hi, this is Maggie McMuffin.
This is BellaSinCLE, and you're listening to WEBurlesque the Podcast Season 5. Esta es BellaSinCLE, y tú estás escuchando a WEBurlesque Podcast, la sesión número 5.
Are you in Los Angeles?
Yes, I'm in downtown LA on Skid Row right now where I work at. Yes.
Well, it is season 5 of the WeBurlesque podcast, and my name is Viktor Devonne, your host, and with me I have my very first guest of the season. I have Egypt Blaque Knyle, and I'm very delighted and honored to have you with me. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Hailing from Los Angeles, have you always lived in LA?
I have. Well, as a child, I lived in New York for just a little bit, but yes, LA most of my life.
Do you think that you'll always stay a West Coaster?
Yes.
What do you love about it?
Well, you know what? It's funny because my family is actually, they all live on the East Coast or in a different country. I love it because this is where I was born. This is where I was raised. And this is where my seed was planted, for me to grow into the woman that I am. And this is pretty much all that I know.
But you've traveled. You've been around.
Yes, I've been around.
If there had to be another place, where is some place that you've been that you could see yourself settling with? If not LA.
It's funny because when I went to, other than Belize, other than Belize, because, my family, I loved Switzerland. When I was in Switzerland, I had such an amazing time out there, and being able to get on the train and just be in Germany and to go to different parts of Europe that quickly, and to be accepted, as a Black woman or Afro-Latina woman. It was just exceptional. I had a great time. Everybody was pleasant. Now, the thing I couldn't get with is that the way they eat. So stores open at a certain time, and I like to just go to the store, you know. So you have to wait for certain times of the day for the markets to open.
Oh, I see. Because everything's fresh and everything's
Everything is
local.
fresh.
I see.
Yes, food is outside. You pick your vegetables and fruit outside. So, you know, and then the coffee. Okay.
Now, I'm not a coffee drinker, so what's the
the coffee, first of all, I went in there, I go into a restaurant, and when I was in Puerto Rico and Belize and all these places, it's sort of like this, but I get there and I'm like, I'm going to get me, I need a caffeinated coffee. I'm tired. I've been performing all night. So I ordered this $5 cup of coffee, thinking it's going to be in a regular cup. And so they give me this baby little shot cup for $5. And I'm looking, because the LA girl that I am, like, what the fuck is this? Let me tell you, Vic, I drank that shit and I was on Beam Me Up Scotty, okay?
So all you needed was the shot.
That's all. I learned to appreciate the coffee.
So growing up in Los Angeles and now being a touring burlesque performer, I mean, touring not so much right now due to the state of the world.
Yes.
Were you someone who did the performing arts as a kid, or did you grow into that as an adult?
No, I grew up in the performing arts as a kid. Okay. And this is when the story, it gets long, but I'm gonna.
No, please. I got nothing but time, so go right ahead.
You know, as every, you know, when you hear the stories of performers or athletes, it's always an outlet when you come from, you know, certain places, you know. So I come from South Central LA. And as you know, it's very, or you may have heard, it's very gang infested, you know. And dance was always an outlet that my family felt it kept me out of trouble, you know, because, you know, back then, I'm at the age where back then we played outside, you know. Mm-hmm. We played outside, you know, and it was easy to get into some shit, you know, in LA. So, yeah, dance was like, you know, but you know what's funny? My mom tried to put me in dance. I remember when I was probably like, I want to say four-ish, because I remember I've seen pictures. And I hated it. I was so rebellious. Like, I don't want to dance. I wanted to do everything. I want to do gymnastics. And then she put me there. I want to do, you know, I didn't want to dance.
Couldn't be satisfied. You couldn't be satisfied.
I cannot be satisfied. I wanted to do every damn thing there was. But as I got older, my mom started like putting me and my brother and sister started putting us in these dance classes, and she used them as a form of punishment. And I think that's why I started like being rebellious against a lot of the arts, because it was like you can't go outside until you practice your positions in ballet and you get them right. You can't go outside until your legs can open up a little bit wider than they did yesterday to get into that split. So it was always some bullshit that I could not go outside and play double dutch, you know.
This discipline, yeah. I mean, that's a rough thing for a kid. But do you think you've grown into now being that self-discipline?
Let me tell you, yes, because as I got older, I started enrolling myself into dance classes, and I only went to schools. My junior high, even my elementary, my junior high, my high school, all offered performing arts. So my family always made sure I stayed into the performing arts. You know, I play the violin.
Oh.
Yeah, hey. I played the violin first. That was my first musical instrument. And I went into ballet, but my favorite style of dance have always been modern.
Okay.
And so I started praise dancing in my church as a young child, and believe it or not, that became a form of punishment too, because my teachers, my principal at my school, they all found out, oh, you praise dance at church. So instead of me getting suspended when I did crazy shit at school, they made me go to their church and dance. so funny. And I had to sign a contract that I would dance for this many weeks at their church or any like event that they had, knowing I didn't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a punishment. But I treasure those little punishments now, you know, because it really made me see things differently, you know. But within them trying to keep me into dance, you know, I did get caught up into games, you know. Here we go. We ready? So, me growing up being what they may call lighter skin of people that I grew up with. And it was funny, my mom is very dark. She's darker than me and everybody, but me and my youngest brother, we're like the lightest. And so a lot of the kids in the neighborhood really didn't like me, nor my brother, but especially me as a girl, because I was lighter skinned. See, I'm darker now because as you get older, the sun and all this shit, right? But I was what they call piss ass yellow. That's what they used to say when I was younger. I was very light skinned and I had a different texture hair than a lot of the girls that I grew up with. And so I got bullied a lot, you know, growing up. And I don't know, although I had brothers and everything, they were older. And so I just I didn't know how to fight. I didn't know how to defend myself. I found myself always kind of running home, trying to get home. And I had one of those parents that would push her ass back outside, like, what you running from? You know? But I still had to go back to school and face these people, you know? So I ended up turning to gangs, you know? And they
For
were
protection.
Like, for protection. And they were my big sisters and brothers. And they taught me how to fight. And if anything ever happened, they always stood up for me. You know, it was just, you know, yeah, it was a time. You know, also in my childhood, and I'm sharing because I like, you know, I like people to really know, you know, where I come from. So when they see little behaviors or they see things that I do on my dance or emotions or me crying, they understand where it comes from. You know, I just didn't get older and start acting crazy or start acting like this crazy person, right? I also was in a foster system for a little while. Due to the fact I used to run away from home. My mom was a professional model who got caught into the drugs. And so just shit started happening. And my grandparents ended up taking on the responsibility of raising us after so many court days. I mean, oh my God. You know, and the foster system wasn't like it is now. You know, I know a lot of foster parents who were so good to those kids and really provide a safe home. When I was in foster homes, it was more about how much money they can get, you know. And yeah, and I got bullied in the foster homes as well. So me being a part of like that gang, it was God, it felt good. Can I say back then? You know, yeah. So that gang, like I still know those people now, but growing up, you know, it's funny because they always, the gang members, now this is weird, the gang members see me as something bigger than I see myself, you know, and they used to always tell me, you're different than the other girls, like it's something about you, you know, it's like you're the star of our neighborhood, you know, because now, although I was in a gang, I did pageants. Kind of weird, right? Like
you were the glamorous tough girl, basically.
Yeah, I wanted to do all the pretty things that girls did, but it was rough where I lived, you know. So I had to kind of balance it out. But I love wearing evening gowns, of course.
Still going on it, yeah.
Yes, I love crowns, of course. You know. And that was my thing. And believe it or not, those gang members are the ones that supported my pageantry because there was a lot of older girls and guys, you know, that really wanted me to make it.
Mm.
And although everybody was out here acting a fool and acting like clowns and fighting and all this kind of stuff, at the end of the day, they saw something in me, and they were like, I remember one of the guys, he passed away, but I remember one of the guys telling me, you have to finish school. You have to be educated. You have to finish school. And whatever we need to do, now mind you, these are gangbangers and drug dealers, okay? Whatever we have to do to make sure you succeed, we're going to make sure. But you do not belong in this gang. Vic, when I tell you I fought my gang to stay in the gang, it is, it wasn't until I had my daughter.
Mm.
Okay, so when I tell you I'm a product of everything, I feel like I'm a product of everything because I'm also a product of teen pregnancy. So I had my daughter at 16, and she's the one who kind of made me kind of say, hey, ooh, I'm going to have to do some things differently if I want to live for my daughter. Mind you, her father was killed 2 weeks before she was born. Yeah. Did you think this story was going to go this way?
I'm letting it go the way that it needs to.
So, I'm telling you this story because it's like, growing up and being the woman that I am comes from so many places in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Being a teen mother, coming from a teen mother who got addicted. Thank God she's a different person today. But, being in a gang, also being in pageants, being in dance, doing all these great things. It really built character and it really built me, you know. So growing up, I did all these things, and then I wanted to be in college. I wanted to go to college. That was a big thing for me. Believe it or not, my grandparents, every time I graduated, bought me a car. And I think it was their way of like showing me that I was enough, showing me that as long as I did good, they was always going to meet me in between, letting me know that I didn't have to go to this gang, I didn't have to do all this because they had me, But I just didn't know back then, And so they bought me a car every time I graduated, and people would be like, oh, you bitch, But I got to get every car. So I graduated from junior high school or whatever. I had a car.
Yeah.
9th grade. Okay, going into high school. I graduated from high school, although I had a baby in high school, I got a car. Then I went to college. I pledged a sorority. That was the goal, because I was in a big sister, little sister program in high school. And so that was that. Then I auditioned for Disney.
I'm sorry, you auditioned for what?
Disney.
Disney, okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, should we keep going?
Yeah, please. No, go.
Okay, then I auditioned for Disney, and my ballet teacher, I also belonged to like a couple of dance companies throughout my life. Geometer, which was a modern dance company. But this specific dance teacher, Mr. Franco Brown, oh, I love her so much. She came to me, and I was like her star dancer, her principal dancer, and we're in college, and she's like, they're having auditions for Lion King. Now, this is like, I'm like half, I don't know if you remember, like, that you could be in half high school, half college.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a theater art school.
Mm-hmm.
And they had it at Cal State LA and all this. And so she was like, they're having auditions for Lion King. And this had to be like 93, maybe 92, 93, somewhere up in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Lion King. And she was like, this is a great time for you. And it was some other performers or dancers. This is a great time for you to go out there because they're looking for Black performers, you know, because they're going to have African dance and all this kind of stuff. Victor, when I tell you, I went, and then she was best friends with Robert Ponzi, who was the producer of Lion King at the time.
Mhm.
He also passed. And I remember going to that audition. It was hundreds and hundreds of kids from everywhere, people who flew from different countries and states and everything to audition for Lion King.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know what Lion King was. It was just a cartoon. You know, who knew it was going to be so big, right?
Yeah.
I remember being in an audition, and we had to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning in Anaheim. And you had to get a number. And I remember being number 100 and something. And mind you, it was hundreds of kids, okay?
Sure.
And I remember being in that damn audition till late at night to not get a part. And I remember being the bratty ass dancer kid that I was. I remember I could not understand because I didn't get none of the African parts. And I danced my ass off. And I'm like I was one of those kids like crying. I'm crying like, oh my God. And I remember running out. And I remember Robert Ponzi came up to me and said, hey, come here. And he told me, the reason why you didn't get a part for Lion King is because your features are too European. I was like, huh? He was like, your features are too European. He was like, we are looking for a more darker skinned performer with distinct cheekbones, thicker lips, and wider noses. The fuck? I'm like, but there's white people in Africa. I mean, I don't understand that. He said, hey, come back tomorrow and you're guaranteed a part. I'm like, I really want to be like, fuck yeah. You know, you just told me I wasn't black enough to do something. That was crazy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back the next day. My dance teacher, she was a tough cookie. Little skinny white lady, just tough as shit. She knew judo and everything. Like she's still tough as shit. And she grabbed me and she said, oh, you taking your ass back to that audition. I went back to the audition and they handed me a card and it said tribal crane. What the fuck is a tribal crane? A tribal crane was like a toucan bird, right? Real beautiful, like a Las Vegas showgirl. And I was the only black. I was the only black girl, and I was the point of that section. Mm-hmm. And I was the only one, well, my section was the only one whose face was shown. Oh my God. Like, listening to me tell this story is so funny because I was so naive when it came to like racism and tokenism and stuff like that. Like, I didn't know what none of that stuff meant back then. But now that I hear myself telling stories, I'm like, I was a part of a lot of this, you know?
Well, I mean, I guess the question then, what is the alternative? If it's not you, then you're not represented at all.
Absolutely. 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 And so, you know, we did Lion King.
How long?
And we rehearsed for days and hours, all times in the morning, because we can only rehearse when the park closed.
Okay.
And so, opening day, I remember everybody was passing out because it's like 100, like damn near 8 degrees outside. We had 4 shows outside, and it went on for about a year until one day, I'm just outside practicing, and one of the choreographers said, hey, you. Yeah, I would say you. Hey, you, come here. I go over there. He's like, you're going into the opening African dance spot today. And I'm like, what? I've never done it, but I knew it because my ass was watching. And I was practicing every position there, right? And he was like, get her a costume. Victor,
Mm-hmm.
baby. They, they put, so I don't know if you ever seen Lion King parade at Disney, but we was by the small world, it's the gate. And the opening dancer kicks open the gate.
Huh?
You just hiya the gate. And the drummers, they I kicked that gate open. I ran out screaming because it was like, I screamed it and I went off. When I tell you I went off, I went off. By the time we got to the third stop, I forgot it was people behind me. And by the time we got to the third, you see, I get excited when I talk about it. But when I look behind me, these people are tired as shit. Like, but they have to keep up with the point person. It's me, right? I'm so excited to do this part. I don't know where I took any breaths. I am going. Like somebody stuck some Energizer fucking batteries in me. I'm going. We get to the end. We finish. Mind you, we had to come back and we had to do this a couple of times. So after that night, they just started throwing me in all the parts. They started throwing me in all the black parts. They was like, you're not going to be a tribal crane anymore. And they end up putting darker skinned women in tribal cranes, which was amazing. And they were like, you're not going to be a tribal crane anymore. You're going to be an extra. And it was such an honor to be an extra because that meant in my head that you was the baddest dancer in that bitch because that meant that, and they only really chose white girls as extras back then. So it was pretty much like we could put you in any spot, right? It got so ridiculous. The only person I never did was Snow White or Cinderella. When I tell you I did Pocahontas, Esmeralda, like they stuck me in everything.
Wow.
I was in Milan. They made me Chinese.
Well, yeah.
It was. We talk about cultural appropriation. I'm like, let me tell you, working at Disneyland, it was a lot of that, and a lot of us didn't even know.
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, it's not necessarily as vocal as we are now about it because those voices keep getting amplified as best we can make up for it. But when you're in, how many cast members were there approximately?
As far as which one?
As far as the whole park. I mean, essentially, if you were a player, I mean that's a lot.
It's a lot.
But if you're a swing where you have to like fill in or move to each, they're just gonna put you in whatever outfit and hope for the best. And it's only going to count for today. It doesn't count. It doesn't count.
Yes, absolutely. And other than Lion King, I think I used to love the Electric Parade. That was one of my favorite parades. But one of my favorite of all times, I love Lion King, but I was also a singing muse for Hercules.
Ah.
And I played every part of Hercules. But when I got hired for it, my part was Melpomene.
Okay.
And I did Melpomene and Terpsichore, who were the muses of Hercules. And that was some good times. Those were some good times. In the midst of Disney, I'm pledging. I'm pledging at school. So it was a lot of shit at school where I was missing classes and washing bitches' clothes and, being fucking tormented by the big sisters of the sorority.
And I mean, all of this, you were also a mom. So you were juggling quite a lot.
Oh, yeah. And then you ask, where the fuck was your kid? So by 20, I had my son.
Okay.
But once again, my grandparents are amazing because, they always was like supportive and they always felt like, hey, you finished what you started. We're going to help you. So I never really had to fight for babysitters and all that. And, I was even living in a dorm. I would bring my kids to the dorm sometimes. Nobody knew I had kids. Everybody thought they were my brother and sister. Like, because I looked probably about When I was about 21, 22, I probably looked about 16.
Okay. You're a petite lady, yes? You're under, what are you, 5'6"?
I'm 5'5".
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 5'5". So yeah. So I did all these great things in life, and we haven't even got through everything. But that's the gist of the beginning, of me.
Yeah.
I also cheered for the Raiderettes right before they left, and tried to go to the Rams or whatever, and then they end up fucking leaving. Then I tried out for the Lakers, and what I found out about basketball and football, it's like a gang. It's like if you cheer for football, you are not getting in to cheer for basketball. It's like, yeah, it's like, no, girl, no, you got to pick and choose.
You picked your, you don't get to float around.
No, you picked your poison, stay with the football girls, So yeah, that was cool. In the midst of all this, I became a stripper.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you always a burlesque stripper, or were you also like a club dancer? You are listening to WEBurlesque the Podcast, Season 5. If you would like to join the WEBurlesque Podcast Network, please email WEBurlesque@gmail.com, subject line podcast, and let me know what you have in mind. Our guest today is Blaque Knyle, fabulous performer in the Los Angeles area. You can go to the show notes of this episode and see all of Egypt's links, so you can keep in touch with what she's got going on. She is on Facebook at Blaque Knyle. That's EGYPTBLAQUE.KNYLE. You can also follow her on Instagram at Goddess Blaque Knyle, GODDESSEGYPTBLAQUEKNYLE, or simply search for Blaque Knyle. To learn more about Egypt, you may also visit Sensuous Embodiment, SENSUOUSEMBODYMENT.com. As ever, WeBurlesque the Podcast thanks you for your support, whether you listen, subscribe, follow, review, or donate at patreon.com/WeBurlesque. We appreciate all that you do to help keep our voices going. Be safe. Were you always a burlesque stripper, or were you also like a club dancer?
I think I was everything.
Okay.
Because
that sounds about right so far.
Mm-hmm.
That you were able to just fill whatever spot you needed.
I was everything, I was a club dancer. I was a video vixen for a lot of rap artists and R&B singers. Did backup dancing, but I stayed in a strip club. And I danced more in lesbian clubs than I did in the actual
the gentleman clubs.
Gentleman clubs, mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Then the gentleman clubs, although I special guest a lot at the gentleman clubs, but I stayed in the gay clubs, and the reason why is you make more money to me. I made more money. Well, I'm a lesbian, of course, but I made more money in a lesbian club than I did in a gentleman's club, and I felt the women, no tea, no shade, no pink lemonade, but back then, the women that danced in the gentleman club would be there like a 9 to 5. They'd be there all day doing, they're coming out in their sections and everything. They have to tip out, In the gay clubs, it wasn't like that. You dance for about 10 to 12 minutes. One time, all the money they made in that day, you made in your 10 to 12 minutes. You know, I have a video up right now on my Facebook page where I'll go to the guy club where the guys are dancing, and we used to all dance together. And if you see how the money flow is, that's how the money flow was for us as lesbian dancers. And we do this every day at different lesbian clubs. You know, we go at night, we dance for about 10 minutes, and we're drunk the rest of the night. And we have a trash bag full of money.
Were you always Egypt?
I was all, no. I was all like, yeah, no. No. I started off, they were trying to call me China Doll. I remember them trying to call me China Doll. And I was like, I don't like that name, you know. And so my name was Diamond.
Classic.
Yes. You got to have a diamond, you know. But back then, what's so funny is that there wasn't diamonds. You know, if it was, I didn't know. You know, I was Amber when I went to the white clubs. Now, I did dance in some clubs called Fritz out there by Disney, and that's where my drag queen friends used to take me. And I used to have to weave in my hair to my ass and play like I was half Asian and half black to dance in the club. And they made me Amber. And so I went by Amber in that club. And then, because they had their quarter of black girls, they had their quarter of Latin girls. So I had to go somewhere, you know. And then the guy that I danced for at first, he said, "You're not going to be Egyptian Lover." Now, Egyptian Lover is a song. And I was like, Egyptian Lover. I was like, why can't I just be the whole fucking country? You know? And then my real name, Aisha, is from Egypt.
Okay.
And so it just all kind of went together. And then my last name, my grandparents' last name is Blaque Knyle. And that's my mother's maiden name, is Blaque Knyle. So instead of putting the A, saying Blaque Knyle, I just took it off and put the Y and made it Blaque Knyle. You know, hey, there's a Blaque Knyle in Egypt.
Did you ever have a moment of you had to like double check yourself to make sure you were using the right name at these different places?
No.
No, you just were able to.
I knew. I was a sharp pick. You know, I knew. I know. Like when I go to the lesbian club, of course I was Egypt. And one thing I hated was not being Egypt, because it came to a point where my parents called me Egypt. Everybody called me Egypt. Nobody really knew my name was Aisha. After a while, I just became Egypt. And Egypt was a whole nother person. Egypt was this raw ass bitch. Like, she was a bad ass bitch. Now, don't get me wrong, Aisha is too. But Aisha's the schoolgirl, you know, she was the mother, you know.
There were things that Egypt could do
right,
that Aisha could not.
That cannot, you know. Aisha can go and do her social work when she graduated from college, you know, and all this. Egypt was a whore.
Not even a courtesan.
She was a whore. She was a whore. Yes, it was good times, you know. It was such good times. And it's funny because I just danced at a Mel Exotic show 2 weeks ago, and one of the guys. So when we talk about legends and icons, I just learned this, and this is weird. I just learned this, that in the strip game, in the urban strip club, let me say that, icons are higher than legends.
Okay.
But in burlesque, legends are higher than icons, right? So it was kind of weird to me, because I was asking one of my stripper brothers. He bought me out of the tomb. Anytime they bring me out, they'd be like, "We're gonna open up the tomb," you know. So he asked me to be a special guest at an icon party. So I'm talking to him, and I said, "So when are we gonna have the legend party?" He was like, "We're not." And I'm like, "Oh, we're not gonna have a legend party?" He was like, "No. You're an icon. That's way larger than being a legend." He was like, "Because who said you was finished? Why? Because you're in your 40s, you have to be finished." Like, these kids still scream for you. These kids are still asking for you. We still get phone calls saying they want you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because I've always been a different whore. I've always been a different stripper. I've been doing burlesque before I even knew what burlesque was.
Sure.
You know, I didn't even know it. I've always worn a flock of rhinestones. If you ever watch, there is a I don't know if you've seen the documentary called Shakedown,
Mm-mm.
and it's me talking about it. You can see me as a young girl, and they follow me through my stripper life, you know, and it's amazing. And you get to see the urban strip clubs, and we're in the streets of South Central LA, and that's how like the Burlesque Hall of Fame, and a lot of people say, hey, did you know that you were a part of the Black revival? Like, no, I was just trying to make money.
Yeah.
That's it. I didn't know I was a part of shit.
Well, I mean, it's always good to know that you have other people keeping track, because then you can focus on what you need to and not get the swelled head, not get distracted. Because if you're doing it not only as a fulfillment for the whore, but also as a job, as a way of the grind, so to speak, you don't necessarily, you get the accolade, sure, you get the acknowledgement, but it also, you were doing it because that was what you needed to do at the time.
Yeah.
So.
And when they brought it to my attention, I've had so many people in the burlesque scene, you know, they bring it to my attention like, hey, do you know? Because I started stripping like when I was about 16, 17 years old. And that was like the early 90s, like 94, 95. So when they say, hey, you were stripping when? So do you know this is where you're actually going to be placed in the Hall of Fame, or this is where you're going to be placed because you were a part of that movement. You are that movement. It's just they never shined the light on LA kids. They always talked about either New York kids or, you know, East Coast or kids or, you know, something. But they never really talked about the LA kids until this documentary went out during Gay Pride about 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
And it went worldwide. I mean, I had people contacting me like, can we bring you to Australia? Can we bring you here? Can we talk about the Shakedown video? Can we talk about this? You know, I mean, they have me on there drinking alcohol out of a Tide bottle. That's how young and wild I was, you know. And yeah, they show a time where I almost was arrested by the police. And so my cousin actually was arrested and I ran. But then they catch me on another part of the documentary, and you can see me running, and then walking fast, and you see the police kind of come behind me, but they didn't come backstage to record because the police stopped them because they caught them on film the first time.
I see.
Yeah, and back then, you know, the police was not having that shit.
I don't know about now if they're still having that shit.
They're not having that shit now, but they were really against, you know, cameras and stuff like that. But those damn cops, you know, it's funny because those same damn cops I've watched in the strip clubs many a time. You know, in their clothes. I remember faces because I remember money. You know, and I remember your money, boo. You know, but now you have a job to do, so now you want to play. But they were very lenient with me, so I don't want to really give them too much of a hard time. But they were very lenient with me, you know, because by the time they seen me, my panties was back on.
Well, since you've been through all of this, and we've only gotten to so far of your origin story, when you see musicians or artists or even other burlesquers that sort of take on this sort of stripper persona or sort of treat it as a costume or as like a phase or something that they can just play with, is there a level of you haven't earned that, or what is your perspective on it?
You know what? I used to feel that way. I used to feel, especially, and the reason why I used to feel, and you know what, no, sometimes I still feel that way depending on the situation, individual
Sure, some people
situation.
just are bad at it. They're
Yeah.
just a little too much about it. Yeah.
Yeah. But for me, it's because of all the shit that some of us went through to provide spaces, you know, for people to play with the shit. It bothers me. And then I have this thing about paying homage. Like, stop acting like you the one who made up some shit. You know, stop acting like you was the first stripper on earth. I wasn't even the first stripper on earth, but you pay homage to the people that came before you. You know, and yeah, sometimes I used to feel like they wore that art as a costume, and they did not take it seriously. You know, now as I get older, I feel different. Now I just feel like just be the best that you can be and own it. Own your shit. Take classes. If you want to play the stripper role, just be good at it.
Mm-hmm. Well, because there's sort of like de-stripperizing, like even pole and things like that. Yeah. Audience at home, the eyes that I just saw.
It's weird, a lot of things bother me when it comes to the strip game, the burlesque game. I don't even like seeing, and when people hear this, hey, you can inbox me, but I really don't even like to see people on stage without training. But I come from that type of culture. I come from, you can't get on stage without training. You can't just because you said, hey, I'm gonna go on YouTube. And you in LA, you back and forth, we don't get down like that. When I got into burlesque, you had to go through Lily Von Shoop's School of Wayward Girls. If you were going to get on the stage, you had to go through Penny Star Jr., Lily Von Shoop. You had to go through something to get on these stages. It wasn't just you saying, I tried it. I tried to say, I'm Egypt the stripper. How do I sign up to perform? And Chris Bignon looked at me like, who? Oh, broke me down. Broke me totally down, So yeah, it's very humiliating, when you see people not take it seriously.
The level of entitlement and sort of short-sightedness of it can get a little.
Yes.
Yeah.
People, the entitlement. Oh my God. Yes. People feel very entitled, especially when it comes to the strip culture. It's they just don't understand. Like being in the strip clubs and coming from that time when it was dirty. When you was really saying, we use whore as a glam word now, we use that as a beautiful word now, but it was a time where I was called whores and I never fucked anybody for money. But, birds of a feather flock together, right? Everybody had their specialty in the strip game, Thankfully, I was one of the dancers who probably had a nice looking face, a nice looking body, and I was talented. Some people had the same thing and some people didn't, and they had to do a little bit extra, some change for some change. But guess what? The way people celebrate sex work, the way people celebrate sex work now was not happening back then.
Well, this weird, the day we're recording this is the day after the Grammy Awards. And 2 days after the Grammy Awards. Sure. Well, it was recently. And the Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B are all over right-wing news as the example of the dissolution of family values because they dare be themselves provocative on stage. It's not a coincidence that they're women. It's not a coincidence that they're Black. It's not a coincidence Black and brown. And also the fact that they are doing that style of music. None of that is unrelated. And I think we're at we're at such a weird point, and maybe because it's technology adds to it, that we're making that turn back to being conservative after this big liberation. And we do that every couple of decades or so. And I'm worried about where we come out at the other end of this pandemic, because even though I was only alive for so much of it, considering the AIDS epidemic of the 80s and what that did to the 90s, I'm curious as to the trajectory that we're getting towards. And I know that the people are going to get hit the hardest from it are people of color, the queer people, and women specifically. So it's going to be all of us hopefully working together to stand tall on that.
Stand very tall on that. And what people need to understand about the whole Megan Stallion, it's funny that you brought her up, because there was a guy on Facebook today who was kind of like upset about her name. And basically was talking, you could tell he's a teacher or something, and was talking about, he called us illiterate USA and how we take words and damage them and this, and I was insulted. And I said something about it. He tried to tear me a new asshole or whatever. But I meant what I said, and I said what I said. You know, the thing is, Megan Thee Stallion, the name Stallion, like I was telling him, he was like, the name Stallion, you do know that belongs to a horse. But you do know in Black culture that to be called a stallion, you know, I was called stallion once upon a time, and what they were talking about was my athletic body. You know, what they were talking about was my strong track legs, because I ran track here and there, and how buff, and how, you know, how the symmetry of your legs protrude in a certain way that look kind of horse-like. Gotcha. And it was never taken, and it's really talking about a phenomenal woman of curves with this beautiful coat. We never looked at it as a male horse, a female horse. It's like the pronouns we're using, you know. We didn't look at it like that. We looked at it as something beautiful and shiny and curvaceous and awesome. So this guy just tore it apart, tried to tear me apart, to where really I had to take my post down because of me and him talking, because it was getting to be something I'm not about. You know, I just gave my opinion because culturally I know how we look at the name, but he wanted to go on, and it's exhausting, and I just wasn't going to do it, you know. But what people need to understand about Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B, see, I've been following Cardi B since she was in the strip club before she ever was a rapper. And the things that they did on the Grammy is actually things that we did in the lesbian strip club, you know. They didn't even look, people talking shit. If they really got down and dirty and did the shit that we actually do, you know, when they opened their legs and just was flipping each other, we did that to our customers. The scissors and flipping over and putting the booty on the plastic, and just, that's nothing. You know how small that is to somebody like me, or somebody who comes from that type of place. Like, it was beautiful to me. And them young women being able to express themselves from where they came from, because we have to understand, they come from the strip club. Let them women be who they are. And I get it, you know, a lot of parents are like, but our daughters and this and that and this, you know, look, everybody's going to grow up to be who they want to be. I'm not trying to say anybody is better or less than anybody, but these women are telling a truth. They're expressing where they came from, and I don't think we should try to take that from them, you know? And because they're in the limelight, of course, everybody's going to fuck with them, right? But guess what? They're number one on the charts. And they're Black and Latin women. And I even think this girl, Megan Stallion, is Caribbean. So, however, They need to stop. And when we talk about what's going to happen after this Pandora's box,
Uh-huh.
I'm like you, I'm hoping, excuse me, that we still stand strong. And I'm hoping that we really stand for each other. I'm really hoping that this wasn't a phase. I'm really hoping that we as people of color was not a phase for people. I'm really hoping that, they keep fighting and we keep fighting, you know. I just don't know, like all the love that we giving each other. It's like even with the Black and Brown Excellence show that Pearl put on, it was so much love. Every show that I have been in, regardless of race, it's been so much love. I haven't encountered one show that did not have love. And we were loving on each other. We were complimenting each other. We were respecting body types and everything. I hope we don't go back into a place where we forget. Of course, I'm never going to forget. Like, I can't forget, but I really hope that, people remember. Also, I hope these babies and even these stars, I hope people really remember who they are, and what they promise as leaders. That's my thing about leaders. We're leaders for a reason. We're leaders for a reason. People look up to us, So I just, it's so hard. Like my brain is just like going in circles because we cannot go back into that world we came from. This pandemic and people that we lost, it has to be for a reason. And not for a season. It has to be for a reason, not for a season. No, but it has to be for a reason, And this is history. This is history. Like, just think our kids and grandkids and little kids, everybody's going to grow up to remember. I couldn't go to school for a whole year. I had to wear a fucking mask for a whole year and some change, however long it's going to be. Somebody passed. I couldn't go to the funeral. I couldn't go to the hospital. Like, shit. We better not stop. We better not stop. We better not stop. Yes.
You mentioned holding basically leaders to task, essentially. How important is your mentorship to you when you have folks that look up to you and that you are a teacher, an instructor, an older sibling, a mother figure? How important is that to you, and how does that fit into your life where you are now?
It's very important to me, and the way it fit into my life is that my mentorship and me being a mother of a house is just how I mother my children. Okay. I'm very nurturing when it comes to the way I mentor and the way I run my house. But I'm also seeking greatness, and not a greatness on my standard. It's not a greatness that I feel, oh, you should be able to do. No, basically it's bringing something out of that person that they didn't know that they have, that's been in them the entire time. One thing about my mentorship, Victor, is that I work from the inside out. I'm not one of those mentors that just help with dance pieces. To be in my mentorship program, it's like me being a psychiatrist, because I need to know who I'm working with, and I need to know where your passion is. And if you're coming from a hurtful place, I need to know how to make that hurt help you, So I take it very seriously, especially as a leader. And that's when I talk about, getting on stage without being trained, getting on stage without knowing who you are. You can't get on stage not knowing who you are, but why? When I got into burlesque, we didn't have all these mentors and teachers. There was one or two here in LA. We're everywhere. We're everywhere now, and we're virtual. You can take advantage and and take classes and ask questions. And we need as leaders, I made a comment yesterday. I take classes from the babies. I take classes from the new performers and the babies because they keep me fresh.
Mm.
They keep me fresh. They keep me in the know of the politics. I don't go to school. I'm not in college, so I don't really get to hear what's going on unless these babies are educating me. Half of the technology I learned about these videos, I learned from babies.
Mm-hmm.
So the mentorship, it really goes both ways because I learn from them, but they learn from me, and giving them the information that I never received as a student in their life. I'm hoping that I'm also giving them life skills, because there was a lot of things growing up for me in a strip club I didn't know. I didn't know how to file taxes on the free money I was making.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to be a brand. I just knew how to make money and go eat at great restaurants and buy cars. And, that's what I knew.
And now there's marketing involved. Now
Right.
there's hashtags involved.
Yeah, I didn't know none of that. And this is what I'm teaching. This is what I'm teaching in my mentorship. But I'm also working through people's trauma,
Mm.
And by me working in mental health and by me working in the population that I work in,
And being trained for it. Because
Yeah.
that's what you went to school for.
Yes,
Yeah.
and let me tell you, it sound all great. I have a lot of people I mentor that claim they hate me right now, that claim that I try to silence them. I don't try to silence people. Now, see, this is the thing. Here we go.
Do you like movies?
Any movies. Old movies, new movies,
Bad movies?
sad movies.
I'm Matt, aka Stormageddon.
And I'm Rachel Corky Shank.
And together we host Screen Snark, a movie podcast for movie lovers by movie lovers.
It's a podcast dedicated to the movies that are in our eyes, on our minds, and in our hearts.
Featuring guests of a wide selection of entertainment backgrounds, performers, writers, creatives.
So please join us for the casual cinema conversation every other Monday wherever you get your podcast.
And follow us on Twitter at screen_snark, and we'll see you at the movies. All right, we're supposed to do that bit together.
PonyPod, a traveling performers podcast. If you like hearing from traveling performers, please subscribe and leave 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm your host, Miss Mary Jane Green, the Trouser Tent Teaser. You can find me on the main social media platforms or by joining my mailing list at MissMaryJaneGreen.com. In the immortal words of Jack Kerouac, nothing behind me, everything ahead of me, as is ever so, on the road.
Now, see, this is the thing. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
When people get into the mentorship, when people are hungry, they say whatever the fuck they think you want to hear to mentor them. I have a whole application process. These girls and guys, they have to fucking write essays for me. Not just one time, but every 2 or 3 months. It's like school. They have to write for me. I'm always talking about leveling up. I'm always trying to see where did we start and where we are. Mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually. But people come to me all the time and say, I live in a place where they don't accept this and that. And I'm a great performer, but don't nobody know who I am because they don't book me. They always book this person and all this. One thing as a mentor, I make sure people know their name. You said you want people to know your fucking name. I'm going to make sure people know your name. But you know what I get out of it is that they know my name too, and they're going to remember my name through you. You know, so of course I need you to be your best, because we're a representation of each other.
It's mutual.
It's very mutual, you know. And when I talk about life skills, I try to teach things in mentorship that you can just take on the journey with you. And hopefully I will be in your head. You know, if you got anything from me, you know, you knew how to be a queen. You knew how to be a goddess. You knew how to stand up straight. You knew how, if someone is attacking you or saying something because you're black or brown or whatever, you know, you knew how to stand there in your goddess or in your God and know who you are and go out there and kill it. And don't let that trauma overcome you. You know, we do so much in my mentorship program, and that's how I built the House of Knyle off a lot of my mentees. You know, it took a lot of trust. It took a lot of hurt. You know, I went through a self journey during this pandemic myself, losing some of my house members. You know, and the whole point of the house is you don't have to stay with me forever. But I do want to be on your resume. You know, I have people come to me. You know how we get on, well, I don't, but you know how people get on each other, especially old school. You guys are teaching for free. You guys are messing up my money because you're doing this and this and this and this. I had an OG. We're probably the same age, but she an OG in burlesque, okay? Come to me and ask me, how much do you charge for your mentorship? Now, the thing that makes me different from a lot of mentors is that I work with people. You know, everybody can't afford maybe what I want to charge, you know. But, you know, I get paid through your success. I get paid when my name is on your bio. I get paid when you hit that stage and they say, the House of Knyle.
It's like an emotional investment.
Yes, mentored by Egypt Blaque Knyle. You know, that's how I get paid. And people don't get that when it comes to branding. And I'm not mad at nobody trying to make a coin. I'm always making money, but I just make money differently. I'm looking at the long term. I can spend money. I eat money, you know, but my branding and my legacy, you can't pay for that, you know. And I want my children and my grandchildren, I want them to talk about, you know, hey, that's my grandmother. That's my great-great. Hey, she was the best. She was this. She started. She was whatever. The legacy for me is what it's all about. You know, I make money. You know, and I don't think that's what people understand. And that's a big part of my mentorship, you know, is branding and leaving your legacy. And what do you want your legacy to be? Who are you as a performer? You don't have to be one type of performer. You don't have to be a poser. You don't have to be nervous. You could be it all. But who are you? It takes a lot of soul searching for people to find out who they are, and it takes time. It just don't happen in the mentorship program. Some people don't get it until later, and then they come back and be like, ding, Egypt. The people who hated me, right? You was right.
You don't have to tell me whom, if at all, but do you have someone also that you find as a mentor that keeps you grounded on the same level?
Now, look, a lot of people don't know this, but one of my mentors is Stephanie Blake. And Stephanie Blake, before anybody, always was in my corner, always was keeping me grounded. And Stephanie Blake, she won the Queen of Burlesque twice on a farm, you know. You know, she's a badass, and she fell in love with me, and I fell in love with her, and she always kept me grounded, even pro noir. Pro Noir keeps that ass in check, But it's so funny because although we have a daughter-mother relationship, we also are kind of like very good friends, because she will come to me with her shit too, and we talk, and it's crazy. So yeah, Pearl, Stephanie Blake, what was it as a mentor? Tony Ellen. Tony Ellen, the way she mentored me wasn't through dance. It was more through just knowledge, education, telling me about things in the past, how they relate to now, and teaching me about being a certain type of woman, because back then they weren't allowed to do certain things. How to save things. I've always kind of knew, but to hear it in a different way, an old school way. Mm-hmm. How to save a little bit, don't give it all, Tony is a big mentor of mine, And then I have people I have worked with, like Sweet Pea. I work with Sweet Pea, Poison Ivory, who's one of my best friends. And we started around the same time. And a cute little story about me and Poison Ivory. I love to tell this story is, I remember when I first met her, I didn't like her. I don't know, that although she's from California, she's been on the East Coast for so long, and she had this East Coast thing going, and I have family from the East Coast, so you know how that goes, they're kind of strong and intimidating sometimes, and I just didn't know how to take her, and I just remember her, I don't know, I said some crazy shit about slapping bitches, I don't know what I said, but I remember we were laughing about it, and she took me out to a pub place, and we had beer, and we was in Ohio somewhere, and we were just talking right now, and she was like, I just want people to know my name. I just want people to know who I am. I just really want to be successful in this art. And I said, yeah, me too, because we both aren't accepted, where we were. And I said, me too. And she said, we said 2016. We set a date. 2016, we coming back to this pub. And when we come back to this pub, everybody's going to know our fucking name. And that's how we became close, because by 2016, we met back. She was the queen of burlesque. I won so many titles.
Yeah.
I was also, the time she won Queen of Burlesque, I had won that the Sparkly Devil Scholarship. And so yeah, people knew our name. So when we came back, we had to drink to it. Like, yeah, bitch, told you, people was gonna know our name. We can only go up from here.
How do you know what is next? How can you knowing what you know and having been through what you've been through and being skilled and capable, how do you know what to prioritize? Because to me, it would almost seem like more than intimidating. It would be like hard to focus. So where do you center?
What I'm prioritizing right now is my healing journey. Healing for me right now through everything. I had COVID. In the beginning, when it first started, when nobody knew what the hell was going on. Losing a few friends, not to death, but just because we didn't see eye to eye.
The circumstance, yeah.
Losing mentees, I'm a big person of loyalty. I'm a big person of loyalty and trust. And if I bring you into my home, around my children, who's adults now, and I'm loving you, and I feel, you break that loyalty. One thing I'm open about is if I can own my shit. If I do something wrong, tell me. And I tell people all the time, I'm not the one that want to get big badass because you telling me about my shit. Now, I might have to go process it, but I'm very open. I'm very, very open. So to lose, some friends, people who I really loved and everything, I had to go on a self journey because it went to heart. Like my soul was crushed over these friendships, And I felt my throat get a little frog in it, And then I also lost some of my transgender friends to death and of COVID and just immune system and stuff. And then, I had to go on a self healing because I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I kind of lost myself in a mess. I had to shut down my mentorship program, and I felt bad because I had people I was training, and I just totally shut down, and I had to apologize and let them know if they still believe in me, we'll pick it back up. So the focus for me right now is to become a better me, to become a stronger me, because during COVID, my bones crystallized where I couldn't walk, and I didn't tell nobody, but some people know that's close to me, but I didn't really go live and all that because I was afraid to tell people about it because I didn't know what was happening. And I didn't know, it was kind of like, remember back in the day when people couldn't say I'm HIV positive, people couldn't, it was like that. I didn't know what COVID was.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I should be vocal. Now I'm very vocal about it, but right now my whole thing is self-healing. I want to make sure that my path is clear on where I'm going. I want to make sure that my children will be okay if anything was to happen. And that's what I'm doing now is, getting shit together. Not saying I'm going nowhere, but just saying I have to be mindful of things like that, buying houses. My biggest dream right now and where I'm going, what I can tell you, I'm looking to open up a studio. And I want it to be a burlesque studio, but I also want it to be a healing studio where I do my sound baths and meditations and sacred dancing, but we still learn burlesque. We still have Ginger Valentine, all these people coming to teach you about fans and sex and, everything. That's what I'm working on right now. I'm still in connection with a lot of the producers that I was going to be headlining for before the COVID happened and out of country. And they're pretty much still like, hey, once we're up and going, you're still the person, because really in 2020, I wasn't even supposed to see the United States, So yeah, that's where I see me going. I just see me going up. All you can do is keep going up, keep learning. I can see me still learning. There's so much to learn. I'm getting stronger. Because like I said, my legs, my knees, that's why if you really see me dance now, you don't see me really dancing as hard as I used to. I'm more into my glam and, everything.
Giving face.
And face and body.
And body.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that. It's because I can't right now. Right now, I can't right now. But time the world open, I will. So yeah, I'm leveling up right now. I'm leveling up in my life, my body and just my process of thinking, making sure I'm a little more understanding too for other people, because I could be hard. I could be hard sometimes when it comes to training people.
Because you want so much for them, or
I'm like Debbie Allen on Fame. You want fame? This is what it costs. I'm that person, but I mean well. But you know, I mean well, and I don't mean no harm toward anybody. I just want everybody to succeed. You know, I want everybody to be their best. And my thing, I always want to know, are you a temporary performer or is this what we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
But some people just see this as a hobby. Is this a hobby? Is this for fun because you see somebody do it and now you want to do it? Like, people get into burlesque for all kind of reasons.
Sure. Absolutely.
Is it a healing journey? And there's nothing wrong with none of those journeys. Just let me know so we can see how to work through it, right?
Well, Egypt, it has been my pleasure getting to know you. Thank you for being so open and vulnerable and strong, and exceptional. Seeing you through these virtual times, we've only been passing ships only a few times in person, but it has been inspiring to watch and to be a part of. And I look forward to when we share the stage wings again. And I get to see you really.
Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for everything you do, Mr. Hollywood.
Thank you.
You know, you do some brilliant shit.
Thank you.
And all the platforms that you're curating for performers is beautiful. And thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Bye, Egypt. Thank you so much.
Bye.
WEBurlesque the podcast, property of WEBurlesque Corporation, all rights reserved, Viktor Devonne. Opening and closing music, On a 45 by This Way to the Egress, available on iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your songs. Used with permission. Please visit WeBurlesquePodcast.com for show notes on this and any other episode of WeBurlesque the Podcast.